And it's extremely fitting that for your graduation speaker, you've chosen a persuasive person, someone who speaks truth to power, and a boundary spanner. James Orlando, whom I first met in the spring when he brought his petition by my office for the school to allow him to do an international placement. And then he came back again, a couple more emails, and then again. And so we were able to creatively work out a situation where he is the first MSW student that we know that was able to do at least a portion of his placement serving children, vulnerable children in Ethiopia. And it's fantastic that you've chosen him to be your speaker.
Social workers, stop me if you've heard this. He says, "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm a social worker." And then he says, "Aw, good for you. That's really great." He says this as if I ever had a choice or could ever mute the voice of a child lacking a dinner plate. I look at him. I see that my estimations in his eyes have diminished just as my tolerance for this conversation has finished. But he's not. And so he continues with this thought like most of them do, impressed to impressed, and he bumbles through something to the effect of, "I'd be a social worker too, but yeah." I say, "Yeah, I know. I know because I was 11 and she was 40, and though my clothes were bought from sale racks, hers were pulled from trash. But it was her eyes that said to me, when I burned my hand on that ladle, 'Poor me.' Isn't this a soup kitchen? Aren't I serving you? Poor me, poor you." But that's when I knew. I knew that we're all in this together. That like aspen trees, we may stand separate, but if you dig deep, you're going to find we're connected. Which means that if I suffer, she can't help but be affected. I am a social worker. However you take that to mean, I don't need letters on the end of my degrees to die a little bit when someone has to summon both the courage and the shame to say, "Hey man, can you spare some change?" Because yes, I can. But some change is cheaper than others, bro. And I can drop you my pocket's worth, but damn if it's harder to bring change to this earth. And yet, we're social workers. So from blue Vermont to red Kansas, we're going to take whatever a state budget hands us, to grant freedom to unchanged man's wrist, to ease pain like medical cannabis, and to rise like a covered man's fist, to symbolize that we are all better than this. We are the voice that says, "Live simply, so others can just simply live." We stand up for those who had to sit down at the front of the bus or the diner across town. We are the unalienable and unalienable rights, the voice of logic that tells all of these fox hobbits that this country wouldn't survive without aliens for a fortnight. But we're also pleasant and optimistic. We tell ourselves that we're not getting fat, we're just getting a little more stout. Or, "Honey, I'm not losing my hair, I'm just growing my forehead out." And so he wonders out loud, well, what even makes a social worker? And I think, that's actually a really good question. Are we holders of degrees or believers in beliefs? Are we surgeons dissecting the human condition in hopes of chemoing frailty and injustice with our knowledge? Or are we the unconditional, the humanitarian absolute the handful of souls that demand that no one is to be alone. In essence, in Haviland, are we taught or just polished? Now, while others search their careers like refrigerator doors for their salaries and benefits and office top floors, to me that all just tastes like triple hydrogenized, processed, and chemicalized more. And I'm good with just an apple. Not to keep the doctors at bay, but to get my conscience to stay. This job allows me to do the things that sadly I can no longer say. Like to my older sister, about how much I miss her. But I can't, because she's gone. So my so longs are going to have to be acted to the clouds in the hopes that one day she's looking down and wanting to shout to God one word. Proud that I'm a social worker. Social because there's people. Work because it's hard, like the lumps of accumulated skin that form after scars. We're resilient. And so others will call them happy hours, but we're still at our desks, craned over our paperwork with our crooked little necks, because they tell us there's a dignity in being thorough. But we know that a child in this system is one that you can't furlough. And all the party goers will flaunt their compensations. We'll stay after scrounging couches for reparations, to pay the legal mechanics, to fix the antics, that the truth that all men are created equal feels false right now. And so I'll pause, somehow, to not forget to remind you, don't give up. Don't burn out. Because if you want a job, humanity is currently accepting applications for those who buy in, not sell out. We've all seen the career rocking chairs out there that give us something to do while serving nowhere. That's not us. We must kick the addiction to rock back on our diplomas, rock back on our tenure, rock back on our good enoughs and I'm too tireds. Yes, it's hard out there, and I'm not going to lie, the paychecks are bare. But if we're intent on calculating our financial rewards, let's also factor in what others would be quick to ignore. A mother, seeing her kids for the first time, she thanks you. We add more time to the elderly to give them in their homes while taking that time that the suicidal spend alone. You want a 401k? Okay, we all do. But when you consider social work, think about this for compensating. You'll sleep better than a baby hibernating. So he finishes up and he says, well, how did you even decide to be a social worker? And I tell him, it's all I've ever meant to be. But here's where I see the fault lines within me, because what I want to ask him is, how did you decide not to be? We don't call it social half-day Fridays. And you can bet that we don't call it social lunches. And with all the PDF, you can bet that we don't call it social company perks. We're here today to serve tomorrow, because what we call it is social work.
Thank you so much, James, for that very inspiring and amazing speech. Thank you.